This video will compare the most commonly used modulation effects, from a simple effect like a tremolo to the more complex, such as a rotary. To demonstrate, we will be using effects from our MCreative bundle, which offers considerably more flexibility than basic effects provide. They will also give us a better understanding of the power of these modulation effects. We will be using an electric piano sound, a dry Mark II simulation from Cubase 6, which sounds very raw and monophonic, like this. Let's start with a tremolo, in particular MMultiBandTremolo. Tremolo modulates the audio volume via an LFO, a low-frequency oscillator. Using a different phase for both the stereo channels gives us a widening effect. This is what it sounds like with no widening, when both channels are in sync. By increasing the modulation speed, we can hear very quick fluttering effects. Using 3 bands instead of 1 provides the same width while giving the effect more subtlety. The spectrum is now divided into 3 bands, with each processed using a different tremolo speed. This reduces the chances of the audio becoming completely silent, or getting panned to just one side as with a standard tremolo. By using more bands, we can get even more subtle results. Let's try 6 bands instead of 3. The width is clearly audible, yet the effect rarely gets panned to just one side. With minimum width, this is even more audible. While parts of the spectrum are fluctuating, complete silence is quite rare. In asynchronous mode, the tremolo doesn't sync to the host's tempo anymore, which can be advantageous. We can also try some more complicated active presets. To understand what's going on here, we can switch to the edit mode. As you can see, the bands are moving, and that causes various changes in the tremolo effect. Let's move on to the next effect, the autopanner, by using MMultiBandAutopan. While a tremolo varies the volume, Autopan modulates the pan position. With a mono audio track like this, it sounds very similar. Again, using multiple bands gives the effect more subtlety and also creates more interest. At higher speeds, we can easily hear that the lower frequencies are moving more slowly than the higher ones. And now we'll try an asynchronous version. And finally, let's again load a more complicated active preset. And another one. So, what's going on? Again, the movements are caused by the limits of the bands being wildly modulated. Let's try a phaser by loading MMultiBandPhaser. Phasers basically create several notch filters and move them across the spectrum, thus removing frequencies from the audio. This causes the typical wow sound. Here, the mode controls the number of the notch filters and so the sound character. With high speeds, the phaser may even change the pitch slightly, causing an effect similar to a vibrato. Phasers are naturally filters, and so gain nothing from multiband processing, unless the settings for each band are different. Let's try processing with 2 bands. With most modulation plugins, the dry-wet controller set to 0% has the same effect as bypassing the plugin, but it's click-free. As before, we can try a few more complicated active presets. You hear a lot going on in the sound, yet this time the bands are static and even the modulators are disabled. Let's try an even more complicated active preset. We'll move on to some of the more advanced effects, starting with the flanger. Here we are using MMultiBandFlanger. A flanger creates a duplicate of the audio, then modifies and delays it a little, and mixes it back with the original audio. It also has a feedback, which generates the well-known sweeping effect, often used on distortion guitars. Flangers often provide a very deep widening effect. That can't be produced by a tremolo or an autopan because flangers actually add something to the sound, whereas the other effects do not. The rate controller is usually quite subtle until a feedback is enabled. And as before, let's try something a little more complicated. As you can see, flangers can provide a wide range of effects. To maximize audio quality, enable sync interpolation in the plugin settings. Chorus is one of the most complicated modulation effects. We will use MMultiBandChorus, which is one of the best-sounding examples on the market. Like a flanger, the chorus creates duplicates of the original audio. The goal is to make each copy sound different, thus avoiding the sweeping and phasing effects produced by flangers. A well-designed chorus should sound wide, and as if the original audio has been recorded over and over again. It is designed to sound more natural than a flanger. Again, to maximize audio quality, enable sync interpolation in the plugin settings. MMultiBandChorus can create up to 10 voices. Modulation is controlled by the character, creating the differences needed from the original sound. Different settings and characters can produce a wide variety of sounds, from the natural to the extreme. The plugin can even add saturation to the voices, giving a warm, tube-like sound. With a smart combination of the chorus and integrated tremolo, it is even possible to simulate other effects, like a rotary. Finally, let's cover the vibrato effect. In our case, we will use MMultiBand Vibrato. Vibrato produces slight variations in audio pitch via an LFO, although such an effect isn't so useful on a piano sound as we will shortly demonstrate. But first, by using a different phase on both of the stereo channels, we can produce a very deep widening effect. Here, our controller is called stereo. Secondly, by using the integrated tremolo, the effect can simulate not only the Doppler effect, but also a rotary. While a traditional rotary has only 2 speakers, MMultiBand Vibrato can simulate up to 6 of them, which has proven to be extremely useful. Let's start by checking out the 4-band rotary. The preset basically simulates a rotary cabinet with 4 different speakers. Since each speaker is rotating at a different speed, we can create very large stereo widening, but still with very natural results. Let's compare it with a 2-band rotary. A 2-band rotary, a 4-band rotary, and MMultiBand Vibrato is also capable of less typical and natural results. Finally, let's have a quick comparison of all the effects. A tremolo, autopan, phaser, flanger, chorus, rotary. And now all of them.